What if childhood as we knew it was rewired by technology, transforming an entire generation's emotional and social development? In The Anxious Generation, we dive into the shifts that technology and overprotection have brought to modern youth, leading to what many experts now call a mental health crisis. Here are 7 intriguing points that will open your eyes to the factors driving this transformation and show us what we can do about it. 1. The mental health crisis surge. 2. The decline of play and freedom. 3. The rise of a phone-based childhood. 4. The impact of social media on girls. 5. Boys and the digital drift. 6. A call for collective change. 7. Foundational reforms for a healthier childhood. Join us as we explore these 7 powerful points, each revealing a different dimension of the challenges facing today's youth, and how we might bring them back to a healthier, more resilient path. Point 1. The mental health crisis surge. In recent years, a shadow has emerged over the lives of young people, a quiet storm, invisible to the naked eye but overwhelmingly present within their minds. The surge in anxiety, depression, and self-harm rates is not just a ripple. It's a wave reshaping adolescence and young adulthood across many nations. This mental health crisis isn't a mere trend or passing phase, but a complex, pressing reality. Like a hero setting off on a journey, young people today face an increasingly perilous internal landscape, with emotional adversaries that have become part of their everyday lives. This surge in mental health challenges represents an urgent call to confront the reality of an epidemic whose roots are buried deep within the changes of modern society. For many teens, the journey begins innocently enough. The smartphone, their ubiquitous companion, seems harmless. Yet, as it fills their lives with endless connections, images, and opinions, it also brings a constant hum of notifications, comments, and comparisons that wear down their self-image and peace of mind. From the early 2010s, as smartphone and social media use skyrocketed, a stark and troubling shift took hold. The mental health of teens, particularly girls, began deteriorating at an alarming rate. Anxiety and depression diagnoses increased, particularly in Gen Z, the first generation to grow up with these technologies shaping every moment of their lives. Unlike previous generations who navigated social pressures face-to-face, teens today do so primarily through screens, where body language and personal warmth are absent. Loneliness is rampant, not because they are alone, but because their connections often lack depth. In studies comparing data across the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and other regions, adolescent self-reported loneliness has surged. Teenagers report feeling forever elsewhere, experiencing social disconnection even when physically surrounded by others. It's a journey taken in solitude, with little of the guidance and support that previous generations enjoyed. Here, every image is perfected, every story filtered, creating a false standard that erodes their self-worth and intensifies their fears. For girls, especially, social media fosters comparison, with devastating consequences for their self-esteem. The metrics of likes and comments, rather than reinforcing a sense of connection, become the measure of one's worth. In this hyper-competitive landscape, every flaw feels amplified, every vulnerability exposed. Tragically, these insecurities are often managed through self-harm as young people attempt to cope with anxiety and a perceived loss of control. Emergency room data has revealed that rates of self-harm among adolescent girls nearly tripled between 2010 and 2020, a trend that clearly signifies a severe and growing crisis. In facing these challenges, many, grappling alone with their struggles, internalizing disorders like anxiety and depression have become their primary adversaries. Unlike anger or aggression, which seek external outlets, these disorders are quiet, eating away at one's peace and hope from within. Thoughts spiral, creating a sense of despair that darkens even ordinary experiences. In this hidden struggle, even those closest to them, family and friends, may be unaware of the battles raging beneath the surface. The signs are subtle, often manifesting in withdrawal, loss of interest, and physical symptoms like fatigue. Yet, for these adolescents, the mental health crisis is not hypothetical. It's their daily reality, where simple tasks become mountains and hope feels elusive. For some, the journey leads to critical harm behaviors are not simply cries for attention. They are coping mechanisms in a world that feels insurmountable. Cutting and other forms of non-suicidal self-injury are often attempts to regain a sense of control, to find relief from an inner turmoil that has no easy outlet. Alarmingly, studies have shown that these behaviors are rising in both frequency and severity, affecting girls at disproportionately high rates compared to boys. While suicidal ideation and attempts do not define every young person's experience, the increasing number of adolescents arriving at emergency rooms for self-harm reflects a profound struggle for survival amidst this mental health epidemic. They are pioneers on a new journey, facing challenges that demand understanding, compassion, and action from the society around them. To dismiss their struggles as merely exaggerated responses is to overlook the fundamental shifts in their world. This generation has been entrusted with an emotional burden unique to its time, one compounded by technologies, cultural shifts, and social structures that previous generations never had to face. Point 2. The decline of play and freedom. In earlier generations, childhood was a time of exploration and adventure. Children wandered through their neighborhoods, making up games, finding new places, and learning through every tumble, every game of chase, every argument that ended in a laugh. This world of discovery and freedom was not only fun, it was crucial for building self-reliance, resilience, and problem-solving skills. It taught children how to navigate life independently, equipping them to tackle challenges and recover from setbacks. Yet, as childhood has been reshaped to prioritize constant supervision, structure, and safety, this essential freedom has faded away. Today's children live in a world where the open-ended play once so common is rare. Parents, understandably concerned with safety, are now more inclined to keep a watchful eye on every move, restricting children's chances to roam freely. Despite the good intentions, this constant supervision has brought unanticipated consequences. In many places, the concept of letting kids be kids has been replaced by a relentless need to keep them under control. Strangers are viewed with suspicion, and even routine activities like walking to the park alone are perceived as risky. Ironically, this shift has occurred in a period where, in most places, crime rates have fallen significantly, making the world statistically safer than it was just decades ago. Yet, it's not data but perceptions that guide behavior, and the world appears far more threatening than it is. As a result, children are growing up without the same freedoms that their parents took for granted. These restrictions may seem harmless on the surface, but they limit a child's development in critical ways. In the past, when children played unsupervised, they learned firsthand about failure, frustration, and the art of compromise. If a group of friends argued over the rules of a game, they had to solve the issue themselves, without adults stepping in to mediate. Through these challenges, they developed social skills, learning how to cooperate and handle conflicts. Every scraped knee and every disagreement was a lesson in resilience. In contrast, today's children rarely face these situations alone. Instead, adults hover nearby, ready to step in and resolve issues, unwittingly stifling children's ability to handle adversity and make decisions on their own. Moreover, there's something special about learning from small risks. Playing outside without constant supervision, climbing a little too high, venturing just beyond the usual boundary. All of these actions teach a child about courage and self-assessment. They push the boundaries of their comfort zones, feeling both the thrill of adventure and the caution needed to stay safe. These experiences are essential to building confidence, but today's safety-focused parenting often removes even minor risks. Instead, many children's lives are increasingly confined to structured environments, whether it's school, home, or extracurricular activities, where the emphasis is on achievement rather than exploration. The shift from a play-based childhood to what has become a more screen-based childhood has only magnified these effects. With outdoor play on the decline, children are spending more hours on screens. where the social dynamics are vastly different from face-to-face interactions. Online, they miss out on the nuances of body language, tone, and the rhythm of real conversation, essential elements of human connection. In digital spaces, the social feedback they receive can be harsh and relentless. An awkward comment or a poorly timed post can bring swift, unforgiving responses that would be unthinkable in the more forgiving environment of in-person play. These online experiences often amplify insecurities rather than foster resilience, making real-life interactions all the more challenging. Even schools, which were once sanctuaries of free play, have increasingly taken a structured approach to recess and physical activities. In some places, playgrounds have detailed rules about what games can be played and how. Children are taught to follow guidelines instead of exploring the boundaries of their imagination and physical abilities. This loss of unsupervised, free play sends a message that even in play, there are limits that adults set, restricting the natural, experimental learning process that play offers. Parents are often caught in this dilemma themselves. Many grew up with more freedom and understand its value, but find it challenging to provide the same for their children in a culture that prizes supervision. Those who attempt to let their children explore independently can face judgment or even legal repercussions. A child walking to a park or playing in a yard alone can raise eyebrows or prompt calls to authorities, reinforcing a sense of fear that restricts freedom even further. In some ways, society has become its own enforcer, with parents feeling pressure to prioritize conformity over what they know from experience promotes growth. The consequences are becoming clear. Without the opportunities to explore, test boundaries, and make mistakes, children miss out on crucial steps in developing independence. They are left less prepared for the world, experiencing higher levels of anxiety and uncertainty about their capabilities. When children grow up believing the world is too dangerous to explore, it limits their capacity to trust their instincts and their confidence to face new situations. Schools, communities, and families are now starting to recognize the need to reclaim this balance between safety and freedom, understanding that learning to navigate the real world is an experience that screens, schedules, and structured activities can never fully replace. Point 3. The rise of a phone-based childhood. Imagine a world where the smartphone, this sleek rectangle of metal and glass, has become the main medium for childhood. For today's youth, a typical day no longer revolves around rushing outdoors after school to explore or meeting friends at the park. Instead, they are immersed in a digital landscape, where nearly all interactions are mediated through a screen. This shift has not been gradual but rapid and sweeping, reshaping not just the way kids socialize, but how they perceive themselves in the world. As if on a hero's journey into an unknown land, today's children and teens are navigating uncharted territory, one in which their screens are both their map and their compass. But the cost of this transition is becoming all too clear, and it is far steeper than we may have anticipated. The origins of this phone-based childhood can be traced to a dramatic technological leap in the late 2000s and early 2010s. When the iPhone launched in 2007, it was marketed as a revolutionary tool for adults, a powerful device combining phone, internet, and music player. But in the years that followed, as smartphones became more accessible and affordable, they quickly found their way into the hands of adolescents and preteens. This wasn't just a new gadget. It was an entirely new world, offering access to social media, games, and an endless stream of content tailored for maximum engagement. Within a few short years, the phone transitioned from a novelty to an essential, dominating nearly every aspect of a young person's daily life. With this shift, the idea of childhood as a time of hands-on play, direct social interaction, and physical exploration began to dissolve. Free time that would have once been spent outdoors or engaged in creative play was now filled with hours of scrolling, swiping, and watching. What's more, the experience was fundamentally different from the face-to-face play that children need for healthy development. In traditional play, kids are constantly engaged with the nuances of real-world interactions, body language, tone, timing, and eye contact. They learn how to read emotions, resolve conflicts, and find a place within a social group. However, on a screen, these subtleties are lost, replaced by emojis, likes, and comments. Social media, in particular, promotes an asynchronous style of interaction where connection is fleeting, and exchanges happen out of sync with real-time responses. This doesn't foster the same depth of connection. Rather, it often leaves kids feeling lonelier than before, longing for genuine, embodied companionship that screens simply cannot offer. The arrival of smartphones has also led to what could be described as a parallel childhood. Children now grow up in two worlds, one that exists in their immediate physical environment and another within the virtual spaces of Instagram, TikTok, and other platforms. In these digital spaces, they encounter not only friends but a vast array of strangers and influencers, carefully curated images, and sometimes overwhelming quantities of information. In many cases, kids are left to navigate these spaces without much guidance or context. While parents may restrict physical freedoms, like roaming too far from home or playing unsupervised, they often allow, knowingly or unknowingly, unrestricted access to the virtual world. This discrepancy creates a paradox, a generation that is highly sheltered in real life, yet exposed to nearly everything online, often too much and too soon. For young people, the effects of this phone-based existence extend into their self-esteem and self-perception. Social media platforms, with their algorithms designed to maximize engagement, encourage comparison by showcasing the highlights of others' lives. Kids who are still figuring out who they are now have to do so in an environment where every detail is under scrutiny. This constant exposure to polished, edited lives fosters an endless loop of comparison, which can lead to self-doubt, body dissatisfaction, and even depressive symptoms. Adolescents, especially girls, are particularly susceptible to these effects, as they feel pressure to present themselves in specific, socially approved ways. The simple pleasure of being a kid, messy, carefree, and unapologetic, is often overshadowed by the urge to appear a certain way online. This new, screen-centered way of life has also had a significant impact on children's mental health. Studies have shown that high levels of social media and screen use are linked to increased rates of anxiety and depression among teens. The constant connectivity fosters a sense of being elsewhere, as they focus more on online interactions and less on the present. Furthermore, sleep is often sacrificed for late-night screen time, which disrupts the rest necessary for emotional and cognitive health. When deprived of quality sleep, children's ability to concentrate, manage stress, and feel balance throughout the day is compromised. This cumulative effect of lost sleep, along with fragmented attention and disrupted social bonds, creates a perfect storm for mental health struggles. It's no wonder that many adolescents today report feeling always on but rarely truly connected. Ultimately, the rise of a phone-based childhood has reshaped the developmental journey. Just as a hero on a quest encounters trials that test their resilience, today's children are facing an array of challenges posed by their constant connectivity. The consequences of this shift are still unfolding, but one thing is clear. In trading play and face-to-face interaction for screens, we may have traded away some of the most fundamental experiences that young people need to thrive. Reclaiming those experiences, encouraging kids to engage with the world directly, take part in unstructured play, and enjoy real connections may be key to helping them build the resilience and inner strength necessary for the challenges of the modern world. Point 4. The impact of social media on girls. Social media promises a world of connection, a place to find friendship, belonging, and shared experiences. For teenage girls, who often have a natural drive for connection and social bonding, this promise can be incredibly alluring. Yet, beneath the surface, social media can turn from a safe haven into a trap that magnifies insecurities and adds crushing layers of social pressure. As more girls immerse themselves in online spaces like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, these platforms, designed to capture attention and amplify engagement, often affect girls' mental health in a particularly intense and harmful way. One of the most potent elements of social media's pull lies in its visual nature, especially on platforms where photos and videos dominate. From a young age, Girls are acutely aware of how they appear to others, which only intensifies as they enter adolescence. On social media, every image becomes a measuring stick, a tool for comparison. Girls scroll through endless feeds of carefully curated images, often comparing themselves to influencers and classmates who seem effortlessly beautiful, popular, and happy. Studies have shown that the more time girls spend on these platforms, the more they tend to experience a sociometer drop, a decline in their own self-evaluation as they measure themselves against the impossibly high standards they see online. They may know, on some level, that these images are filtered or edited, but the comparison still takes its toll. Self-esteem declines, and feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt creep in, leading some girls to feel as if they will never measure up. Girls are especially vulnerable to this kind of social comparison. While boys tend to focus on achievements and skills, girls often place more value on appearance and social status, especially during adolescence. This difference means that visually driven social media platforms have a stronger impact on girls, making them more susceptible to socially prescribed perfectionism. The feeling that they must live up to high, often unrealistic standards imposed by others. For a girl who sees her worth in how she appears to others, the constant comparison on social media can feel like a relentless test, one that she is doomed to fail because of the unrealistic ideals presented online. This pressure not only impacts body image, but can also lead to a sense of overall inadequacy, amplifying anxiety and stress as she attempts to keep up with what she perceives as the expectations of her peers. In addition to social comparison, the way girls express and experience conflict also plays a role. While boys may be more likely to engage in physical conflicts, girls' conflicts are often relational, targeting social connections and reputations rather than physical prowess. On social media, this kind of relational aggression is amplified. Unlike in-person confrontations, where emotions are immediate and conversations have a natural ebb and flow, social media allows for a more calculated, often anonymous approach. Rumors can be spread in seconds. Mean comments are often left unchallenged, and likes can feel like social endorsement of negative behavior. As a result, social media has become a platform where bullying and harassment can occur on a much larger scale than in previous generations. For many girls, this online bullying has intensified their feelings of loneliness and isolation as they face a level of scrutiny and judgment that would have been unimaginable before the digital age. Moreover, girls tend to be more expressive and empathetic, often turning to friends for support in times of stress. This natural openness can, however, lead to the rapid spread of negative emotions in tightly knit online groups. Anxiety, depression, and other emotional struggles can be shared and echoed among peers, creating what some researchers call sociogenic effects, emotional conditions that spread socially rather than individually. In an online environment where girls are hyperconnected, the emotional struggles of one friend can affect others more easily, resulting in a kind of collective anxiety or sadness. These intense, shared emotional experiences can sometimes make it harder for a girl to find stability, especially when she is bombarded with similar struggles across her social feeds. Another disturbing aspect is the exposure to online harassment and unwanted attention. Many social media platforms allow anonymity, making it easy for strangers and classmates alike to reach out, often in ways that are intrusive or inappropriate. Young girls may receive messages from older men or experience pressure from peers to share private images. The internet's vast reach means that even a simple post can bring unwanted attention from people far outside a girl's social circle, exposing her to types of harassment that would have been far less accessible without social media. For many, this invasion of privacy can lead to increased anxiety, self-consciousness, and even fear as they navigate the pressures of being constantly visible online. Social media, initially seen as a way to enhance friendships and connections, has, for many girls, created an emotional and mental minefield. The constant visual comparisons, the amplified relational aggression, and the pressures of public scrutiny are reshaping the experiences of growing up. While it may be challenging to avoid these platforms entirely, Understanding the ways in which they impact mental health can help parents and communities guide girls through this digital landscape with greater awareness and support. If we can create spaces, both online and offline, where girls feel value beyond appearances and social comparisons, we can start to shift the tide, helping the next generation find a balance between online interaction and real-world connections that support their emotional well-being. Point 5. Boys and the digital drift. In the past, childhood for boys was often about hands-on adventures. They'd test boundaries, jump off ramps, try out new tricks, and form packs with friends driven by the need to compete, explore, and take risks. Yet, the world shifted, and for boys, this shift brought a unique set of challenges. Today's digital world presents them with endless opportunities to seek excitement from the safety of a screen, which is a different kind of thrill, one that offers stimulation without the real-world consequences. Many boys find themselves pulled deeper and deeper into this virtual landscape, where video games, social media, and the internet have replaced much of the face-to-face interaction that defined past generations. The story of boys in the digital era is not just about the pull of the virtual world, but also about a push away from the physical one. As society became more risk-averse, restrictions on activities like unsupervised play, climbing trees, and even roughhousing made it harder for boys to channel their energy. This pull-and-push effect has created a type of drift, where boys are increasingly losing themselves in virtual spaces, often without a meaningful sense of direction. Video games, for example, have become an alternative arena for adventure. Games like Fortnite and Call of Duty provide experiences that simulate high-risk situations, creating a digital outlet for boys' natural urge to test themselves. In these virtual worlds, they can conquer enemies, strategize, and even die without real-life consequences. But these online victories do not build the skills that real-world challenges demand. Unlike climbing a tree or playing a team sport, where risks are managed and physical coordination is developed, these games don't foster resilience, nor do they cultivate the social skills boys need to thrive in real-life settings. Boys' social interactions, too, have taken on a new form in this digital world. Many games today are designed to be played online, and while boys are often playing with others, these interactions are not the same as playing with friends in person. In online gaming, the camaraderie lacks depth and stability. A game might connect a boy with players across the globe, but it also reduces a connection to a fleeting experience, a temporary alliance, or competition. This style of interaction doesn't teach boys how to maintain close friendships or solve conflicts face-to-face. As the hours in front of the screen increase, time spent forming meaningful, long-lasting friendships decreases. What was once about forming packs with neighborhood friends, where loyalty and shared experiences ran deep, is now about quick rounds with strangers or online friends who disappear as quickly as they appear. This digital drift is particularly concerning because it affects more than just friendships. It impacts boys' self-esteem, motivation, and even their belief in their own potential. Studies show that while the decline in girls' mental health spiked around the same time social media became prevalent, boys' issues reveal a slower, more insidious slide, with effects seen primarily in their engagement with the world. Boys report increasing feelings of purposelessness, with many expressing doubt about their own prospects. The draw of video games and online spaces provides a temporary escape from these concerns, but does little to address them. This escape is only amplified by social media's pressure on boys to maintain an image or persona, further reinforcing the feeling that the virtual world offers a simpler path than facing life's challenges head-on. Another troubling aspect of boys' digital immersion is the introduction to online pornography, which becomes accessible at younger ages through smartphones. Exposure to extreme, often unrealistic portrayals of intimacy and relationships can distort boys' views on relationships, intimacy, and even respect toward themselves and others. Many boys begin to see relationships as something they can control or simulate through a screen, leading to a retreat from real-world dating and the potential awkwardness that accompanies genuine human interaction. The easy gratification offered by pornography can interfere with boys' willingness to develop the social skills needed to form real connections, thereby deepening their isolation and sense of detachment from the world. For boys, this immersion in virtual worlds presents both an escape and a trap. On one hand, it offers a safe, predictable environment where they can exercise control and competence without risk. On the other, it limits their capacity for growth, resilience, and connection, without the opportunity to take risks, fail, and learn from those failures in the real world. Boys are missing out on essential experiences that help them grow into self-assured adults. They need opportunities to challenge themselves outside of the digital sphere, to feel adrenaline, learn to navigate social dynamics in person, and build confidence through real accomplishments. The drift toward a digital world for boys is understandable given the safety and freedom it offers compared to an increasingly restricted physical world. However, recognizing this drift for what it is, a substitution for real growth and experience, can help parents, educators, and communities find ways to reconnect boys with the real world. Engaging them in activities that encourage teamwork, perseverance, and self-confidence is crucial, as is helping them understand the limitations of the digital world. Only by addressing this drift head-on can we begin to help boys find balance and a sense of purpose that transcends the screen. Point 6. A call for collective change. Imagine if the entire community around you suddenly changed. Instead of letting kids wander off on adventures, discover the world around them, or even spend an afternoon with friends at the park, it's like everyone agreed, without saying a word, that childhood now meant supervision, structure, and screens. This isn't just a handful of parents making an individual choice. It's a community shift. Today, families are caught in a sort of trap, where even those who want their children to experience freedom and independence feel it's nearly impossible to provide. If one family does encourage their child to explore freely, they risk judgment, intervention, and even fear of legal repercussions from neighbors who don't agree with that choice. This situation, where everyone feels compelled to follow the same restrictive norms, is what psychologists call a collective action problem. When each family acts alone, they're limited by the behaviors and expectations of the broader community. For example, a family might decide their child is ready to walk to school on their own, but if no other children are doing the same, this choice stands out, and the child may feel isolated or even embarrassed. If more families took that step together, though, the norm would shift and the community would become more comfortable with child independence. To solve this, parents and communities must come together and commit to a different approach, one that involves rethinking our collective values around childhood. Coordinating this kind of collective action is challenging, but history shows it's possible. For example, consider the changes that took place around drunk driving in the 1980s and 90s. Through collective efforts, what was once seen as a socially acceptable behavior became morally condemned, creating safer roads and more responsible driving habits. If communities could rally around a common purpose to protect children's freedom in a similar way, significant changes could be made. By working together, families could help shift the culture, making it easier for everyone to encourage independence without fear. One way to do this is by supporting initiatives that encourage parents to wait until their children are older before introducing smartphones. Organizations like Wait Until 8 have united parents around the goal of delaying smartphone ownership until at least the 8th grade. By establishing a clear benchmark, these initiatives allow families to commit to a common standard, knowing others in their community are doing the same. When multiple parents stand together, children are less likely to feel left out or pressured to join the smartphone crowd prematurely. This kind of grassroots coordination makes it easier for families to maintain healthier boundaries for their children's technology use. Another way communities can work together is by changing the social expectations around independence. Renormalizing childhood independence can be achieved if entire neighborhoods or schools commit to it as a community effort. Schools can encourage this by assigning independence homework, where students are tasked with age-appropriate activities that build confidence and self-reliance. Examples might include walking to a local store, preparing a simple meal, or even planning a small outdoor activity. When these activities are presented as part of the school's curriculum, Parents feel less pressure to supervise constantly, knowing their neighbors are on the same page. Such programs offer a controlled way for children to build independence, and they subtly shift societal expectations back toward trusting children's abilities. The collective effort can also extend to local governments and institutions, which have the power to create environments that support childhood independence. By making public spaces more child-friendly, with safe areas for free play and traffic-controlled zones around schools, cities can encourage families to allow children more freedom. Some communities in Europe, for example, have implemented school streets, where roads near schools are temporarily closed to cars at key times to promote walking and social interaction. This small adjustment fosters community and independence, allowing parents to feel more at ease with giving their children room to explore. With thoughtful changes, neighborhoods can become spaces where children's independence feels natural, and families are collectively supported in their decisions to give their kids more freedom. Technology companies also have a role to play in facilitating collective change. Age verification tools for social media, for instance, could prevent children from accessing platforms that are not designed for them. By creating safer online spaces, tech companies can relieve some of the pressure parents feel to constantly monitor their children's internet use. Additionally, schools and public institutions could establish policies that limit or eliminate smartphone use during school hours, creating phone-free zones where children can focus on real-world interactions. These collective policies help reinforce that digital restrictions are not just a household choice, but a community standard that values face-to-face interactions and presence over screen time. Ultimately, the shift toward a healthier childhood doesn't require a radical overhaul, but rather a collective willingness to act together. If parents, schools, tech companies, and governments work in unison, a community-wide change becomes possible. Instead of accepting that childhood must revolve around screens and supervision, we can create environments where exploration, independence, and face-to-face interactions are the norm. This united approach could open up a new path for today's children, a path filled with discovery, confidence, and real connections. Point 7. Foundational reforms for a healthier childhood. Imagine the kind of childhood where kids can roam freely, explore, and form deep, meaningful friendships without the constant pull of screens. This vision, while seemingly simple, has become elusive in today's world, as the digital landscape pulls children further away from these real-life experiences. The task of restoring a healthier childhood, a play-based rather than phone-based life, requires more than individual efforts. It demands foundational reforms at a broader level to reorient how we think about technology, schooling, and the essential experiences that shape young minds. These reforms don't aim to turn back the clock, but rather to strike a balance, ensuring that children grow up in a way that lets them fully engage with the world, build resilience, and develop the skills they'll need for adulthood. One of the most impactful shifts would be delaying smartphone access until high school. Today, smartphones often find their way into children's hands long before they're ready to handle the pressures that come with them. Introducing the internet and social media at a young age immerses kids in a world of endless comparisons, distractions, and complexities before they have the mental tools to process them. By postponing the smartphone, parents give their children the chance to develop a foundation rooted in direct, face-to-face connections. This delay allows them to build real-world social skills, forge friendships based on shared experiences, and engage in play without the constant distraction of notifications and social media feedback. Another core change involves keeping schools phone-free. Schools have traditionally been safe havens for learning and growth, yet smartphones increasingly intrude on these spaces, fracturing attention and fostering social isolation among students. Studies show that limiting phone access during school hours enhances focus, fosters richer social interactions, and even improves mental well-being. A phone-free school environment would allow students to be fully present, whether they're engaged in class, chatting with friends, or participating in group activities. In this space, children can experience a break from the digital noise, building a stronger sense of connection and community. These reforms require commitment from both parents and school administrators, but their benefits are undeniable and within reach. Social media. 2. plays a powerful role in shaping childhood, but its impact becomes especially complex when introduced during the sensitive years of adolescence. Setting a minimum age for social media access, such as 16, could mitigate the detrimental effects it often has on self-esteem and mental health. Social media's design encourages comparison and often amplifies feelings of inadequacy, especially for young users. By waiting until children are older and more self-assured, they enter these platforms with a better sense of self and resilience. The goal isn't to prevent them from engaging with technology, but to introduce it at a stage when they are more equipped to handle its challenges, preserving a sense of confidence that will serve them throughout life. Central to these reforms is a shift back toward play and independence. Over the years, unsupervised play has dwindled, replaced by structured activities and screen time. This change, while often well-intentioned, has deprived children of essential opportunities to learn through trial and error, take manageable risks, and gain confidence from their own successes and failures. Reintroducing unsupervised play gives children room to grow, test boundaries, and build trust in themselves and each other. Playgrounds, parks, and community spaces become arenas for adventure, where kids can climb, create, and connect without constant oversight. Research consistently shows that children who engage in unstructured, free play tend to be more resilient, adaptable, and socially adept. These foundational reforms are not about isolating children from technology or enforcing rigid rules, but rather about crafting a childhood that equips them to thrive. By taking a collective approach to these changes, communities can create environments where children feel supported in their growth, less burdened by digital demands, and more connected to each other. It's an ambitious path forward, but one rooted in the understanding that a balanced, healthy childhood is not only possible but essential. Final words. Reflecting on today's childhood, it's clear that the digital age has reshaped young lives in ways no one could have anticipated. Children face new mental health challenges, fewer opportunities for play and independence, and a world where screens increasingly mediate their social interactions. These transformations demand a response that's bold and thoughtful, one that brings together families, schools, and communities to reimagine what a balanced, healthy childhood should look like. From delaying smartphone access and creating phone-free schools to empowering children through unsupervised play and redefining our relationship with social media, each step we take holds the potential to restore the magic and resilience that childhood once promised. We all have a role to play. By coming together to make these foundational changes, we can build a community that values children's well-being over convenience, freedom over fear, and true connection over virtual ones. Imagine a world where kids explore their neighborhoods, experience the joys and challenges of friendship face-to-face, and build resilience through real-life adventures, not virtual ones. This vision isn't just for the next generation. It's for all of us, as our world becomes a healthier, more connected place when its youngest members thrive. It's time to make these changes, to move from passive awareness to active transformation. Let's take these steps together to build a childhood rooted in exploration, independence, and real connection. Every small choice to protect children's natural development counts. And in making these choices, we're not just shaping their future, but paving the way for a society that honors the value of a truly fulfilling, balanced life.